The modern family. Let us bridge the gap between generations. Let us shape up the modern family. The modern family. Join the discussion and give us your feedback. Live with Hatem Al Salam and Dr. Wa'il Al-Harasi. The modern family.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. All praise be to Allah, the Lord of the heavens and the earth, and peace and blessings be upon our beloved messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. O Allah, grant us knowledge, wisdom and sincerity. Dear brothers and sisters, I salute you all with the salutation of the people of paradise. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm your host Hatem Al Salam. Welcome again to your show, The Modern Family. Today I'm very excited actually today because I promised you since last week that we have a very good surprise. And I'm going to tell you what is a surprise in a few minutes. But before that, I'll introduce my honorable guest. Today, our guest is Mrs. Sabah bint Muhammad Al-Bahlaniya, who is the CEO of Early Intervention Association. Assalamu alaikum, Akhta Sabah.
Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you today?
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you for accepting the invitation and joining us on the show. It's very, very... we're very honored to have you here today. And today we're going to talk about a very sensitive topic and a very dear topic to our hearts. But before we get into today's topic, as I promised our audience, the surprise today is we have someone who deserted us a long time ago. We have Dr. Wa'il Al-Harasi back with us on the show. Thank you very much, Dr. Wa'il, for coming back. I was lonely all this time. And
thank you for having me back. And assalamu alaikum to all the listeners. And I missed the show. I missed the atmosphere. And I missed being with the listeners. Whether it's a surprise or not, yes, surprise you can categorize into two. Yeah. And some surprises are really shocking. So maybe that's what you meant, a shocking surprise, not necessarily a good one. But there you go. You're stuck with me. I'm stuck with you. We have to get on with it.
Yeah. But today, to punish Dr. Wa'il, I'll let all the talking. I'll let him do all the talking today, and I'll just take a break for today. Today's topic is about our beloved children and some of the disabilities that they might have. And inshallah, Mrs. Sabah will tell us more about these type of disabilities and how they affect our lives as parents and to our children and to the society and community and Oman. And also Dr. Wa'il, I think he's been doing his homework, and I can see a lot of graphs and papers and numbers. So
I think when we talk about the topic of disability, in a program that is concerned about raising children, about social behavior of children and how we should interact as parents with children, we need to talk about disabilities from a totally different dimension. We won't talk about it from a medical point of view. We won't talk about symptoms. But actually this is an idea that was brought up by one of the listeners from Ramadan, when he told me, actually it was my manager, who said, why don't you tackle the topic of learning difficulties? And I said, what a good idea. Let's just turn it into a theme, a whole theme. So inshallah from now and the next few months, we will dedicate this show into talking about disabilities, children with disabilities, different type of disabilities. What do we need to know as parents? What do we need to know as a society about disability? How to live in a house, in an environment where there is a child who is disabled. And to start with that, we would like to ask Sabah, and it's quite awkward for me to say Sabah because you are my auntie, so Auntie Sabah. Okay. Let us define disability, and the whole objective of this show from today and the next 3 months is we would like to know what is out there for these little children.
When we define disability, we define it as either physical or mental or intellectual or sensory impairment that individual or children could be born with it, or who could gain it, later on in their life because of diseases or whatever, or it could be genetic.
Yeah.
But the disability is not on its own. When we define it, we also have to define the environment. Because sometimes people can be disabled, but the environment can be conducive, and it can limit the disability of the person. So if you are, let's say, a child on wheelchair, if we have everything that's appropriate there for her in the environment, for them in the environment, that means the disability is very minimal.
Yeah.
But imagine if we don't have that, then here the disability will be magnitude. So it's not just what is the disability, but also the environment itself. And that's where we have a problem in our society, understanding that.
Okay, so what I understand is that disability could be more severe because of the society and how society looks at a disabled person or provides or understands a disabled person.
Exactly.
I used to have a problem with even the word of disability, and I know even with the medical world and policymakers, using appropriate terms and being politically correct has been an issue. So it has changed throughout time what we call people with physical or mental impairment. Sometimes they used to call children crippled children,
exactly.
or crippled people,
handicapped,
which is still used, I think, in the US. It's not used anymore, for example, in England or in Britain. And disabled. I used to have the idea of, let's use the term of special need. People with special need, rather be more polite, be more positive. Is it a more positive way, or do you have other ideas about using the term special disability, special needs?
I think people, in general, even especially the parents, they didn't like the word disability.
Yeah.
So most of the international organizations changed it to special need.
Mm-hmm.
Then they realize people with disability require more services that are very critical. When you say special need, it's a huge category of people with special need.
And
so it could
everyone has a special need. Every single person on this earth has a special need.
Exactly.
So it won't differentiate.
Exactly. How can we cover that? So they looked at it in this way, where they went back to say disability, but instead of us just using the word disability, we have to put, a political right word like people with disability, person with disability. If somebody is deaf, we can say somebody who's challenged, mentally, or challenged, unable to speak. You can use the words you want, but in a technical document, in a technical environment, we have to use people with disability.
Okay.
But don't you agree with me that it becomes a label of a person? So, for example, if you enter an office and then you ask about a person, and you ask, let's say, for example, Salim, is Salim around? And then they will ask, which Salim? And then you will label, say, Salim the crippled, or Salim the disabled.
I don't think that's nice.
It becomes a label that because you have special needs, then this is part of your title, disabled, or you will not call him by his family name.
I think see, Hatim, we need, from my point of view, we need to look more positively on people with special needs, and this is something that we would like to highlight and emphasize throughout the show in the next 3 months, inshallah, is that although it is the most visible thing, the impairment. Whether somebody is deaf, or somebody is blind, or cannot walk, or cannot have any facial impressions, that is the most visible thing to us. But it's probably not the most profound attribute of that particular person. So we need to look deeper into what makes this person special, more than just what is obvious to us immediately.
Yeah, and I think, one of the reason why people look at disability, because our attitude toward the word disability, when we say disability, people take it as a negative. And that's why it's spread in the community as a negative word. For example, if we say somebody has diabetes, people don't take it negatively, even though diabetes can lead to somebody being a disabled.
Yeah.
If we say somebody who has, for example, hypertension, that's a disease or a syndrome or a disease. But when we say person with disability, directly we take it as if it's something negative.
And there is some sort of stigma.
Exactly.
Stigma within the society. Not only our society, but in general, in a lot of society, there is this stigma that this is something we need to be shy of, and we need to hide. And the reality, if we talk about Oman, for example, there are really depressing stories about how people try and hide their children and deprive them from their basic human rights, or being treated as human. For example, I remember in one of the villages, without even naming the village, people that we know very well, they used to have 2 disabled children with mental disability, and they used to tie them with the animals. They say, these are not human.
Exactly.
And one of them actually died in those circumstances. One is still alive and still being treated, as far as I know, in a very inappropriate way.
I think the stigma came from because people looked at a child with disability as if it's a punishment from God. If you ask people, they look at it, what did you do that God punished you to give you a child like that? Or, if somebody has a child like that, people say maybe somebody gave you an evil eye. That's why you have that child. People think that it's a curse or something from God or from community that made you have that child, and that's why they look at children with disability in that form. What we need to change is that this is not really a punishment. Many of the parents that I talk to who have children with disability, they say, this is my angel.
Yes.
Because they feel blessed having a child like that in the family. Even if they are severely disabled, the parents feel that they have connection to this child.
But don't you agree that it is lack of faith and ignorance? That people would treat their children like animals, or they would be ashamed of having children with special needs. It's just so sad to see something like this, and faith is an important part of our lives, and if we don't get it right, then we're not right the whole way.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wanted to gauge and to know just before the program. I know it's not scientific in any way, but I wanted to know how people feel when the topic is raised. And as I said, this is not in any way scientific or doesn't have any significant indication, but it's something that I just wanted to do for the show. And just before I came here, I was asking my colleague at work, I'll tell you a word and just tell me immediately what comes to mind. And he said, yeah, okay. I said, disability. He immediately said, wheelchairs.
Exactly.
Wheelchair. It's immediately refers to the physical impairment, physical disability, someone who cannot move, someone who is helpless. I said, okay, question number 2. I'll tell you something. Tell me exactly how you feel. I said, are you ready? He said, yes, I am. I said, okay, disabled child, how do you feel? He said, I feel sad. I feel depressed. I feel sorry. All the types of feelings I've had were negative.
Exactly.
And feeling sorry. Because we have that idea, without thinking, we already have that idea that these people, we categorize them as helpless. They always will be dependent, and they can't live their life normally.
Exactly.
And I said, okay, question number 3. You are disabled. What is the first thing you will do? You've just learned that you are disabled. What's the first thing you do? He said, well, I think I will just try and cope with the situation. So again, it's rather than being positive, it's being negative. I surrender. I need to learn how to live a new life. Rather than saying, I will try and live as normal as possible. So it's not scientific, but I think it reflects in general how people feel towards the topic.
And I can tell you, I face that every day. With parents, with teachers, with people who come to visit our center. they mostly look at these children as, they feel sorry. That's the first thing. When you tell people about children with disability, they feel sorry. But as soon as they spend a little bit time in our center, and I encourage people to come and visit, especially schools.
Yeah.
I'm interested in teaching the younger generation to understand that kids with disability are as normal as other kids. They have difficulty in some area. Even your own children, you have different children with different personalities.
Yeah.
So you should consider a child with disability just like a different personality, and you treat them that way. And I'm not kidding you. Most of these kids who come in at the beginning, they're scared, they're not sure, but as soon as they leave there, they want to come back again.
Yeah.
Why? Because I think children with disability have so much happiness in them that they spread energy, that they spread around to everybody that's there.
Yeah.
They're always happy. They're never negative. They appreciate whatever you do with them. And that spreads good atmosphere with the other children.
Yeah.
But if we don't expose our children to this type of children, then they will never learn to really like them. They will always look at them again either as crippled and they have to do something bad to them, like hit them,
Yeah.
or they will treat them very badly. And we need to change that, especially in the society.
And sometimes even parents who treat them very well, but at the same time, they sort of gave up hope, and they teach, whether intentionally or unintentionally, that you are hopeless without us. And that sort of in the mind of the child will create some sort of, okay, my life, their life. Okay, I have to live my life, and I'm devastated, I'm disappointed, I can't live their life.
Yes, Mrs. Sabah said something very important about introducing school children to the center and having them to come there and see and learn something about the children with special needs.
Yeah.
And I think one of the public schools in Ibri that I visited, they have introduced this program that they have created a class of children with special needs in a public school, so that they can mix them with the normal students, and then they can get to know about each other and live a normal life. And and at the beginning, I asked the teachers there in that school, and they said the first few weeks it was difficult because everybody was scared to, they didn't know how to deal with these types of needs. And then later on, they started being friends, and things went by very normal in the school.
Actually, that's the good thing that the Ministry of Education has done recently. They have opened classes, not just in Ibri.
Yeah.
What they try to do is in a catchment area or between wilayats, to take one school and turn it into, for children who are mentally challenged, and another school for children who have, who cannot hear or who have hard hearing. Yeah. Where they can be in a classroom but participate with other kids in other activities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, in Oman, this is just something recent, and we are hoping that this will be
a trend.
It will be a trend, and they will open more school. But this is a trial. It's an experimental to see what is, like a pilot project, to see what are the positive and what are the negative, and how can we modify the schools, and what training can we bring in to change the atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm glad that we came into this topic about initiatives by the government. Could you please shed some light on what does the government do? What sort of agreements, international agreements, have we signed as a country? And what sort of sectors within the government that deal with people with disability? I tried to, before I started preparing for the program, I was some sort of disappointed that I can't see anything visible. However, when I started digging on the internet, I've came across few hits that say this particular government body started doing this or initiated this, which brought some hope to me, at least, that we started doing something. I think it's very important for parents and for the society to be aware about our reality, about disability in general, what is being done by the government, what is being done by non-government organizations, and the society in general. Could you please shed some light on that?
Before Mr. Sabah addresses this issue, I think maybe there are a few initiatives from the government and from the private sector, but maybe the publicity is not there. They should maybe work more on the publicity.
I think it's just more than the publicity. I think there are just, to me, very modest efforts. But let's hear from
For example, the first thing is the child right that came out. The Oman signed the child right, and in the child right it says every child has a right to education, health, citizenship, and all of these other things.
Yeah.
Even children with disability, it mentioned that in one of the articles. But again, because it's again just one article there, children are lost who have disability.
Okay.
Other children did get their rights, but the disabled didn't. So, the United Nations again had a convention for people with disability, and Oman signed the convention in 2008 and rectified it again 2009, and they're now soon going to write their first report back to UN to report what they have done.
Okay.
Now the government, when they signed the convention, the first thing is they created a higher committee. As you know, with disability, it's not one ministry or one individual that can deal with them. It's cross-cutting like any other issues that are related to human being in general, to people in general.
Because if you imagine every ministry that is serving every single citizen would also serve disabled people.
And that's why His Majesty issued a decree forming a committee at a higher level. It used to be at the undersecretarial level, but he gave it a boost by making Minister of Social Development the chairman, and the undersecretary of all the ministries. There are almost about 13 ministries that should be involved in this.
Service providing ministries.
Exactly. And the idea is that each this ministry has to look at, when they provide services, what kind of requirement do people with disability need. It doesn't have to be children. It can be at all range, because even elderly, when they become old and have diseases, also they can have disability. So we should look at it from all that range, from, during birth of a child with disability all the way to, when we are old. What can we make, what laws and rules can we make that will really support and create a conducive environment for people with disability? So that committee also has formed other 8 committees subcommittees underneath, to work on different issues that are really concerning, like health, education, information, sports, working on, job and employment, training people with disability, higher education, working with transportation, working with the municipality to create environment that's conducive. So in all those levels, they have created committee to study. But usually I feel when you have these committees, they take so long.
I was going to say that. I mean, if you have undersecretaries who are dealing with this issue, amongst zillions and billions of things that are also dealing with, when will they be able to actually do something? Because I think at this stage, what we need to do is, first of all, create the right legislations.
Exactly.
And that will take time.
Exactly.
And with all due respect to these intellectual people, yes, but they are so busy. We need to know what else, who else doing what, and what are the time frames, and how seriously is this thing being taken. Just to have a committee, because I get scared when I hear the word committee. I really hate it. And I would rather hear the word, for example, a workshop or something of some sort, work group or...
Actually, this is what happened, because things take so long in the government. The NGOs came up, and we have about 7 NGOs now that are dealing with different kind of disabilities. Some are for adults and some are for children, and some of specific area like autism, deaf. So we have those type of association, at least, which is good. We started in 1990 and now they're growing. And some other, disability, the parents want to form association specifically for their kids.
I think the role of the government is very important, especially at this stage, because NGOs cannot write laws.
Not at all.
And they cannot work efficiently and effectively without appropriate laws and regulations and legislation. So I think the role of the government at this early stage is very, very critical.
But I think the role of the NGOs, which mostly of them are run by parents and people who are really concerned about disability, are pressuring the government now, and that's a good point, to really
help
speed up.
And I think the government should think very carefully and about employing people who are really pragmatic approach, who have pragmatic approach when they deal with these things, and practical people who can think in a very practical way that will speed up the process, people who are efficient, effective, basically people who are talented and are able to make a difference. If we do
and
that,
believe in the cause,
in the cause and take it really seriously.
That's the issue. Believing in the cause.
I think for our listeners to really have the clear picture about this, maybe Mr. Sabah, if you can tell us a few statistics, or maybe what is the population of disability in Oman? Do we have numbers? Should we start worrying, or is it just a small group of disability that we're looking at?
I think,
because
shall we worry though?
Yeah, I think we should worry.
Okay.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
We should worry because the medical care system in Oman is excellent.
Yeah.
The parents are well educated. So when you have a child who's born with disability, they survive. In the old days, we didn't see the numbers because children don't survive. As you said, some parents will hide their children so nobody knows that they exist.
Yeah,
but I think with education and with, a little bit the stigma has reduced, especially with educated parents, they're coming out. And I think we'll see more disabled children being approached. Secondly, we have a lot of environmental issue. We have a lot of, we have to work on preventing genetic disorders. We have to work on, teaching mother to care of herself before childbirth, because with all the nutrition, with all the environmental problem, we'll see more of these
family
intermarriage. We'll see a lot of this. For us to really reduce that, we need to work for almost like 20 years educating people, on how to deal with this issue for prevention purposes. So I think we will see the numbers, and why we'll see them, because people are coming out. And previously, if when the census was asking, people didn't mention. But now I think you start seeing how the increase.
The trend increase, yes. I do have some statistics here.
And I'm sure it's increasing, not because if you look at the first census and you look at the 2010 census, you'll see the increase. It's not just because many children are born with disability alone, but you should understand some people who never reported that they're disabled now are reporting.
I think we have here, I have the census of 1993. It recorded 28,350 people with disabilities in Oman. 2 years later, it's 31,510. And in 2003, 10 years after the first census, it has gone up from 28,000 to 41,000.
This is across the board, all types of disabilities.
All the types of disabilities, which we'll talk about later. And then in 2010, it's gone up to 62,506. And when we talk about disability, 31% of that disability is just people born with disability, 30% due to age, 28% due to illness, 4.8%, and this is interesting, 4.8% in 2010 due to accidents. And it would be really interesting to see how this percentage has changed due to accidents throughout the years.
This itself is a chapter.
Yes, 1.7% due to occupational hazards and accidents, and 4.1% are all the rest, which are not categorized here.
And not only that, with accident, probably people will count only the physically
disabled.
But what about children who are not really physically, but like had brain injury?
Phobia.
Phobia.
Is phobia considered as a type of phobia that might stop a child living or leading a normal life?
Exactly. People don't realize we categorize those under mental
Mental health and not
mental
disabled.
health.
Yeah.
No, they are considered disabled, but at certain level.
Okay.
When they reach a level where they cannot function. See, disability has to do with function.
Okay.
So you can be disabled, but you can be functional.
Okay.
And you can be disabled but cannot be functioning at all. You know?
Yes.
So people with schizophrenia or other who have severe mental illnesses, they can be disabled in a sense they can't function in the society.
Yeah.
They'll hide in their home, they cannot take care of themselves.
I have a colleague at work who had a terrible car accident. Alhamdulillah, she was not injured that bad, but she developed a phobia and she never drove a car again. It's been years now, but she can't drive at all. So maybe this is also another disability that we might look at in the coming sessions, inshallah. We would like to remind our listeners that they can always join us in the discussion and tell us the views and what they think about today's show. They can call us on 24602058. That's 24602058. Are we ready for the break? Yeah, we can go for a short break for the prayer time, and we'll be right back, inshallah.
The Modern Family.
Dear listeners, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to the show. It's still about 5 minutes to prayer, so we'll have another 5 minutes of chatting here about this topic of disability. And let me read out some further statistics about the distribution of disabled by age group. So this is according to the census in 2010 in Oman. Now, 11.9% of the disabled people in Oman are between newborns till the age of 14. 15% is between the age of 15 to 24. 42%, which is the majority, is between 25 and 64. And then again 30% between the age of, 65 plus. Now, this says that the majority of disabled people in Oman are not born with that disability. Can we say that from this statistics here? Because there is a huge jump from almost 12% at the early age group, newborns to 14, and then we have 42%, or let's say 73% from 25 years onwards.
If you look at the census in 1993, you'll realize when we talk about, as I said, the disability at old age, I don't think many disabled survived, previously.
Yes.
Due to health reasons. If you have a child with disability and they have health reasons, they don't survive.
Yeah.
But majority, if you look at the census, you'll see that it is usually the deaf and the blind are the majority there.
Okay.
And the blind are due to, since 1970s when we had trachoma,
Yes.
many young people and old people got trachoma, and that led to blindness.
Okay.
And with deafness, it's also a genetic, and because deafness is not it's not a disability where you can, die from it.
Yeah.
Many of them survive. So if you look at the census 1993, you'll see those are the two key disabilities, and that's why at the old age you see that these are the people who are born in 70s, 80s, and now.
Right.
Secondly, don't forget now, Oman has a high rate of hypertension. We have a high rate of cardiovascular disease. We have a high rate of diabetes, which leads also to disability. So if you look at the disability again, you'll see a lot of physical disability, and also road traffic accident.
Yes.
So also from the 80s, you can see the number of road traffic accident in young people being inflicted with disability. But I think, as I told you, we'll start seeing increase in the children, because now with the healthcare system that's really good, with the assessment, kids are being discovered at a much earlier age. That's why I said you'll see more trend of increasing in younger children, and also you'll see increasing in the adults. Why? Because of the diseases.
Okay.
So that's where we have to really work, first of all, to educate people. You cannot avoid disability at old age.
Yeah.
It comes naturally, but we should delay it so people can live a good quality of life.
What is interesting about this census as well, when these types of disabilities are categorized, you see that there is one category, there are 6 categories. None of these categories include any type of mental disability or learning difficulties like autism or Down syndrome. It's not categorized here. Why is that?
It's because at the beginning of the census they didn't include this, and many people didn't understand, or parents didn't want to accept that their kids have. So when they ask if they have disability, some parents didn't respond. Some did, and it will be put in others. So if you look at the census, you'll see others, which doesn't go with, the physical, because the questionnaire had lots of physical and hearing and, and did have mental retardation, all of that. But you'll see that that's the lowest number. We have those data mostly with the centers, but not really. You cannot count. Those are the people who come and receive the services.
Okay.
And plus the centers are mostly in Muscat.
Exactly.
You don't have centers in
we do have centers, Marakiz al-Wafa, but again they're very limited, and they're spread around the wilayat. So you'll have, let's say, in one wilaya, one center, that 3 wilayats are covered by that one center. So it doesn't cover all the children. So not all the children get the services that they require.
Do we have higher education studies here in Oman about to train people to deal with the disabled children or disability?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so SQ, I'm not sure. Do we have it in SQU or any of the technical colleges?
I know we have one in Nizo College, Nizo University.
I think we'll talk about this just after this break. We'll just break for prayers, inshallah.
The Modern Family. The Modern Family.
Our listeners, now it's time for a call to prayers. Adhan al-Isha, according to local timing of Muscat and its suburbs. Those who reside outside Muscat Governorate have to notice the difference in timing. Radio Sultanate of Oman.
The Modern Family. The Modern Family.
Dear listeners, welcome back. We would like to remind you that the show today is about disability, and for the next 3 months, inshallah, we will be talking about different types of disability. We will talk about children with autism, physical disability, probably physical, any sort of physical illnesses or physical impairment. We will talk about Down syndrome, living with a child with Down syndrome, living with a child with disability, how to live with a child, how to raise their spirits and make them feel that they are normal. Sometimes people say, I would like to treat my child as if he is normal. And I say that is wrong. You have already mistreated them just by saying that. I say treat them as normal. Treat them normally like any normal child. And I have a friend of mine who forwarded a picture of his child. She is 2 years old, but she doesn't grow. She looks like a 4 months old child. And from the way she looked at the camera and she looked really intelligent. She doesn't move. She can't move. She has no facial impressions. But she looked so intelligent. And I said, listen, my friend, I think what you need to do is read to her. She listens to you. She might be listening to you. You never know. Maybe it's the body that doesn't function. Maybe the brain is fully functioning. Maybe she's talking to you. Maybe she's thinking. Maybe she is a thinker. Maybe inside her she is already a scientist of some sort. With the little bit of information she hears from here and there. Listen to her. Speak to her like the way you speak to other children. Read to her. And you never know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will raise this child in the hereafter. وَيَرْفَعُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ درجات. So you educate them and they will be raised and will be amongst those people with knowledge. Yes, they might not be able to communicate or teach, but that's not their problem. So I think we need to deal with disabled children with respect and dignity and deal with them like we deal with any other child.
And I think there are a lot of many success stories where parents they have treated their children who have special needs with love and care and as if they are normal, and the success rate of this treatment has brought up tremendous results.
And as an idea, just brought an idea. I think as an idea, what we need to do in this show is during the break, halftime break, we'll bring a success story from around the world of people who are disabled, considered disabled, and were able to achieve something. Either by getting something from YouTube and extract the audio of them speaking, or we might even narrate whatever they said. I think that's something that we ought to do in the next shows, inshallah. So, Sabah, we are talking about early intervention. We initially said that you work, or you are the founder and CEO of Early Intervention Association. What is it all about?
Actually, it's 20 of us who are the founder of the association.
MashaAllah.
We worked as a group to build this association because we believed we already had an association for handicapped children, and we realized that kids, when they come there at age 5 or 6, it's too late. You know, they already have lots of complication. As you said, parents didn't know how to care for them. So the idea for starting early intervention is to start when the child is born. And this program is not just for the child, it's the child and the parents. It's a community-oriented program. The idea is, as soon as a baby is born, and sometimes parents would be told at the hospital, sometimes it will develop within 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So during that period, as soon as a child is diagnosed that they have a type of disability, it's important that we intervene at that age, and that's why we are called early intervention.
And I think it's very important that we realize that we can improve the lifestyle of a disabled child. It's not that they are stuck with a particular way of life. That can improve, maybe slowly, but anyway, it's an improvement anyway. So we shouldn't lock them.
Exactly. So early intervention means the different services that come together to provide a holistic service for the child, because you cannot just concentrate on one thing. So the different area that we concentrate is physical, because some of these children have muscular problem. They won't be able to walk if we don't work with them at that time. Probably they have what we call cognitive problem. We have to identify that and work with it. As you said, reading. We tell parents to talk to their children. Even when they're holding their baby, even when they are really small, to talk to them, to read to them, to sing to them. This is very important. It stimulates their brain to grow, and this is for every child, not just the first 3 years of a child is very important. But for a child with disability, you have to do more than the other child, because you need to really give them love. We also work on communication. You have to really, because many parents, they have children who are deaf, who cannot talk, so they don't really communicate. And this is when you hear behavior problem.
Yeah.
Because the child wants to communicate, doesn't know how to approach people.
Feels frustrated.
Exactly. They want water, they don't know how to tell you they want water. They want to eat, so they will hit you, they'll take you by their hand by force, they will be angry at you, so that you can give them what they want. So we need to understand about communication and how we can teach our children other method of communication.
And that's when we also label them again, not only disabled,
Exactly.
but this guy or this little child is very stubborn, or they're too annoying. I can't cope with you. It's enough that you have this disability. Now you are trying and behave badly.
Exactly.
I can understand that you have no choice with your disability, but you have a choice to behave in a good way, and I won't forgive you for that.
Exactly. And this is what we need to tell the parents, you have to learn, new communication. Communication, when we say communication, there are so many ways of communicating.
Yeah.
So let's say for children with autism, we communicate with them with cards. You put a card for food that they like, and when they want the food, they have to give you the card. If they want to go to the bathroom, you give them a card that shows the bathroom, so they don't have to hit you anymore. Even with other children, you have to use different methodology. If a child cannot communicate, you can use sign language, you can let them read your lips. There are so many ways of communication. And that's what we need to teach the parents. We also have to teach them social and emotional. Many people who have handicapped children, they don't really show them the emotion. They need more emotion than the other kids, so that they can, feel that they are loved and they participate. Especially the ones that are severely sick.
Yeah.
They require more touch and more, hugs from the parents, because that's the only way that they can be around.
I would like to remind our listeners that this show today is just an introduction to what's going to come, inshallah, in the next 3 months. We are just touching the surface, and in the next shows we'll be very specific, and we'll try, inshallah, to bring people who have first-hand experience, be it people who work in organizations, associations, or even parents who have success stories with their children, and share their experiences. And if you want to share any of your experiences even today, then the numbers to call is 24602058. That's 24602058. Please give us a call and let's learn from each other. It is very important to understand the world of disabled children. We enjoy a lot of the bounties of this life. Let us share that with them, and let them share it with us. Let us not feel sorry for them. Let us feel proud of them. They can do probably a lot more than what we can do. We need to be cooperative, and we need to give them a chance.
I think parents need to remember very important thing.
Yes.
Is the responsibility given by Almighty Allah to them by having these children. And most of the time parents are frustrated and angry with a child for something which is out of the hand of the child.
Exactly.
The child can't do anything about it.
What are the things that we... sorry to interrupt.
The child cannot do anything about their situation. That's how Almighty Allah has created them. But the parent has to be responsible, and they have to put effort, because they chose to be parents. And because they chose to be parents, they have to take the responsibility. They cannot take a free ride on this.
And that responsibility, I think, means that not only how to deal with a disabled child, but because in this show we are focusing on how to live with that child, we need to also focus on how to train their siblings on how to deal with their children, their brothers and sisters, disabled brothers and sisters. So I think it's very important that we also focus on how do we educate all our children on how to behave in front of a disabled child. If they have a brother or a sister, what do they need to do? Because bullying would come first for a child. That's what they would do. When I was in the UK, there was a program on BBC. There was a preschool channel. It targets children who are below the age of 6 or 5. One of the very important and really exciting programs to children specifically was a program dedicated to children with special needs, disabled children. And it taught other children, the main objective of that is to let other children, able children, to teach them how to interact with these children. And it taught them the Makaton language, sign language. The Makaton language is using signs with words at the same time. And my two boys, they were able to learn a lot of vocabulary and using the sign language. Now, if we have that in Arabic as well, and implement that in Oman, and have one of these channels, children channels, and teach them sign language, when they come across a child who is deaf, for example, they'll be able to communicate and play together without feeling awkward.
Also, I think it's very important for the parents, when they look at their children with disability, not really to look at their disability, to look at their abilities. Okay. What can this child do? Always we look at negative things, and if you look at negative things, you'll never find the positive. And that's why, many people who are really famous, who, they were discovered that they have other abilities. Because if you keep looking at, what they can't do, you will never find that God has granted them a lot of abilities in other ways. And that's what I tell parents in our center, that please, play with your child. In the school we are playing with them. We want to see what areas they're good at, and we can build on that. If you see your child is good in drawing, build on that. If you see your child is good in, communicating with other kids, you give them that opportunity. And we do have that in school. Okay. In our center, you see the kids who are older, who can communicate better, are taking the younger ones who don't know where to go or how to do, and they guide them. So they do have abilities. And they want them to feel the satisfaction that they have felt. Exactly. And they do feel, we give them chores. Each child has the responsibility of putting toys away. So the one that is not able to do, the other one will teach. And that's what education is all about, is learning from each other. And we wish that we could, have other children in our center who are able to help our children who are not able. When we bring those children, you'll see how they play wonderfully and how they take the responsibility to do that. And I think, as you said, parents should involve their other children at home to care for their brothers and sisters in different ways. Taking them to brush their teeth together, to read to them, and other activities in the home.
I think something very important that as a community we should take into account is that we should not get involved in the activities of the children with needs when we have a child in need. We have to do it even if we don't have a child who has a special needs, because we need to educate ourselves as a community, and we need to bond with them regardless whether we have a child or we don't have a child who has
And I think this is where, when we started, we talked about disability and why is it negative. The attitude in our society, many parents are afraid to go out with their kids. Imagine if you have an autistic child and you're in a supermarket and he starts reacting negatively and screaming and shouting. People look at you as a parent and they will tell you to your face, you don't know how to raise your child. True. They don't realize that child has a type of disability, and at that moment something went wrong, and he doesn't know how to express. This is his way of expressing. Yes. If people see a child with Down syndrome, people will look at them in the market. They will go and touch the child, or they will talk to the parents in a negative way. We have to change this in the society. We have to accept, and that's why in the West they started putting children in commercials. Why? Because when people start seeing these kids, it will become normal. As you said in school, the first maybe 2 weeks it was very difficult. Then slowly the kids will learn that, this boy or that girl has abilities, and how can we involve them into our groups. And I think this is what we want to work, is changing our attitudes as society, so we can support the parents. Otherwise, if we don't do that, and if we don't give these children their rights, we're not far from being discriminative. Exactly. We need to identify their needs. We need to include them in our lives, their lives, give them a chance to live a good life.
Sabah, just to round up this introduction, you see, we're expecting parents to sort of heal or deal with their children with disability. A surgeon, for example, who is not allowed to perform surgery on his loved one because of the emotional side into it, and they might just mess it up totally. Can a parent really hold their nerves when dealing with a child, and there is an emotional aspect related to that as well?
If we
you have first-hand experience with that.
Exactly. When the parents first, they are told, when you break the news to the parents that you have a child who's disabled, usually in any crisis, people will go through grieving. They will go through denial. They will go through anger. They will go through all of this, and I think it's natural that we allow the parents to go through that.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is for us to have the support of the government, of the people who can counsel these parents. But I think parents, when they overcome that, and that sometimes it's too late for some parents. They come after 3 years, but some parents come after 1 month, 2 months, and it all has to do with our faith and our acceptance.
Yeah.
When they do that, then the parents are the best teachers in the world. Because I'll tell you, we have our center, we do a lot of work, but only for 4.5 hours. The rest is done by the families.
So the emotional side actually helps in this instance.
Exactly, but not at the beginning. Parents need support. Because when you go through that emotions, you are not yet ready to accept it. So you don't want to believe that your child has disability.
And you might make the wrong decisions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I have seen some parents come in at a very early age. At 1 month, they bring their kids to us and they say, I'm ready. And then you see another parents after 4 years. So that shows you they were in denial for so long. But if we do, it's our responsibility to provide counseling. And that's what's lacking in Oman. Parents are told and they're left alone. And I don't think that's right. So my call is for us all as a society, families, the healthcare facilities, the social development, we have to work in really supporting the parents during the first initial stage when they find out that their children are disabled.
And that's the role that the Early Intervention Association plays. It's a major role. And I advise people to go and visit the place, look at the services they provide, and people there do really miraculous job. I've been there, and it's absolutely exciting and inspiring, really, to see the work that they do. I've visited once, really. It's not enough, but what I have seen really amazed me.
Maybe a lot of people might not know even where it is. So maybe Sabah, you can tell us the location of the center.
The early intervention is located at 18th November Street. It's near Research Council.
Yes.
There's a Costa Coffee nearby and other shopping centers. Sultan Center.
Yeah.
So if you come there, please, go to our website and you'll see our number, call us, and we invite people to come and visit, because I think it's very important that people say, why don't you advertise? Because we really don't have enough places for the children.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation. Inshallah, we'll have you in further sessions. Dear listeners, thank you very much. And we promise you exciting new topics on this theme of living with a disabled child, how to live with different disabilities. We'll have different speakers, families, probably, maybe doctors, but mainly public health and social workers who have first-hand experience with children with disability. And we would like you to be the star of the show and call us and share your experiences and what you have learned. If you have a disabled child, please call us and share with us your experience. Thank you very much. From me, Wa'il Al-Harrasi
and Hatim Al-Absalam.
Assalamu alaikum.
The modern family. The modern family. Let us bridge the gap between generations. Let us shape up the modern family.
I remember when I first met you, I felt that God answered my call. There was that one place I always thought of.